Advocate with Marie Andrus from the West Coast, making ravioli in the Antolini home.
Ravioli is a big favorite, a big crowd favorite for sure. And there's nothing quite as delicious as making it from dead scratch. So chapter 1 is getting the pasta that the ravioli, of course, is encased of. Step 2 will be making the filling, and step 3 will be putting the pasta and the filling together, and finally the boiling and best of all, the eating. So I'm starting with a modified version. You may have seen many videos of elderly European women using the well method to start. So they have kind of a little volcano of flour, and they break the eggs into it and they work them in, and miraculously they have pasta dough. I'm going to do that basically, but because I don't have a hidden kitchen assistant like Julia Child, I like to contain the mess. And so I'm going to basically do my well work within this bowl so that my flour is not everywhere. And speaking of flour, I think the best possible flour to use for making any kind of pasta is King Arthur's bread flour. And the measurements are very proportionate. We are going to be 4 people eating ravioli tonight, and so I am going to use 5 eggs, 1 for each person and an extra for the pot. So I've got 5 eggs that I have had sitting out on the counter all afternoon, because it is pretty essential that they not be refrigerator cold, or you won't get that nice stretchy elasticity that you want out of the pasta dough. For each egg, we should use 3/4 of a cup of the flour. But I have yet one more trick up my sleeve, and that is the addition of just a little bit of semolina, because that gives the pasta body and shape. If it's just flour and egg, it's very tender, but it also falls apart more easily. So I need a little bit of backbone here for my ravioli. So I am going to do a scant cup of flour for 1 egg, 2 eggs, it's about 3/4 of a cup, 3 eggs, 4 eggs. And for my last egg, my 5th egg, I'm going to do 1/2 a cup of semolina. So I have 4 scant cups of flour and 1/2 a cup of semolina for 5 eggs. And I'm going to use my fork to just scatter, mix in the semolina, distribute it, and make a well in the center of the flour, like so. 5 eggs. Beautiful, large, brown eggs. Very nice. These are jumbo eggs, which is a good idea, but at least large. They need to be at least large. And 4 and 5. And of course, this is all adjustable. if I have too much flour for this particular group of eggs, I'll be leaving some flour in the bowl. If my dough seems to be a little too wet and sticky, I'll be adding more flour. So you're always on safe ground, no matter what you do. And I start by just simply taking this fork and beating these eggs just as I would if they were in a bowl. But look at what is happening is the flour from the sides is falling into my egg mixture, and that's exactly what I want to happen. Just very slowly and naturally, I have small amounts of flour falling into my egg mixture. And I just keep doing this as long as I can until I get to the point where the fork is no longer doing its job, but so far so good. And see, I'm pushing it in a little, mixing it in a little, like so. It looks very ragged at this point, but don't worry. And now, when it looks this awful, I can get my hands into it. Now I'm going to use my fingers to incorporate flour and feel what's going on here. It's quite moist. It has plenty of room to absorb more of my flour. Just using my fingertips to almost massage it in. And oh, this is good. It looks like it's going to clean the bowl really well. It looks like my quantities here were pretty good. And before I turn it out on my board here, I have to have a glass board. A wooden board is very good. I wouldn't suggest marble for pasta work because you will run into some stickiness there. And I'm leaving some of the scraps behind. Don't worry, this does come off your hands. Because the sign of the pasta dough being stabilized is when it really sticks together and sticks to nothing else. Not your hands, not the surface. And that will just be a product of kneading. And kneading is nothing more than advanced mixing. All you're doing is taking dry material from the outside and pushing it to the wet inside. And you just keep doing it and just keep thinking of it as mixing. It's not quite the same as kneading bread, but it's a similar concept. Pasta dough usually doesn't need as much kneading as bread dough does. You see? It's hardly leaving any traces behind on the board. I can already pick this up quite freely. So I'm pulling the outside, pushing it in, pulling up the outside, pushing it in. I'm using my fingertips to roll it back and the heels of my hand to push it in. Then I kind of turn it around and start all over again. I'm still not quite happy with it as far as, is it kneaded enough? No. And the reason I say that, it's certainly getting there, but I can still see too many streaks of white versus yellow. When it's well done, it should be a very even color. But it's getting there because it's not sticking to any surfaces anymore. And you will feel a little graininess of the semolina in it. That's fine, because when you boil the pasta, when you cook the pasta, that semolina just explodes. And that's what makes it fluffy, which everybody likes. Okay, now I'm getting there. Very good, very good. We're almost home here. How many minutes would you say was I at this? 3, 4? I should have timed it. It's so by feel. I do it so by feel. I'm not conscious of how long it takes. This is very good exercise, you know. Okay, I think I am just about there. And you see that it is a pretty even pale gold. And I've got a little bit of blistering going, which is perfect. That's my nice fluffy egg. And what I'm going to do next is essential. We've bothered this pasta a lot. We've mixed it and poked it and kneaded it and done all sorts of things to it. And before it will let me work with it properly, it has to rest. So I'm going to just dump that out, cover it with my bowl, and now I've got the time to go to chapter 2, which is preparing the filling.